So let's try some example problems using this unit circle. Okay, I've written down just a few, and you may want to write these down someplace too in your notes, but we're going to give these problems a try using our unit circle. Okay, and eventually you're going to want to get to the point where you can do this with a blank unit circle in front of you. So that's what I mean by I'm not necessarily going to make you fill out the entire circle, but if I hand you a blank one, you should be able to find your way to 120 degrees and reason your way through what those coordinates should be at 120. That's where you're going to need to be when you get to algebra 2. Okay? So for sine of 120, I would want to be able to figure out where 120 degrees is. And if I'm using that 30, 15, 15, 30 rule, that'll get me to 120. And then remember the sine value is the y value. So here's x, here's y. So my sine of 120 should be square root of 3 over 2. Okay, cosine of 300. Well, 300 degrees is down here. And again, you could count your way down to 300. I would love to think that you could just go backwards 60 degrees from 360. So find your way here. Cosine would be your first coordinate. Now again, remember, eventually you're going to want to get to the point where you can do this without seeing this, right? So again, if you knew at least this quadrant, you'd be okay, because you could say, I know that these coordinates are going to be the same. I'm just going to have a negative y value, all right? I would also love it if you would get to the point where you can kind of visualize this guy, right? If I can put this triangle back in here, there's my 60-degree angle that I'm going backwards from 360. Here's my x coordinate, here's my y coordinate, short side, long side. So x, y, okay? So cosine of 300 would be 1/2. By the way, if you wanted to verify that on a calculator, cosine 300 does come out to be 0.5, 1/2. That is an exact value that happens to come up on your calculator, because 1/2 can come up exact. It doesn't have a square root in it. All right, so let's talk about negative 150 degrees. Those of you who are visual may be able to think about what 150 degrees looks like going this way and just go that same distance going this way. I'm not always that good at that, to be entirely honest, but if that works for you, that's totally fine. Remember we said that you can take any angle and add 360 degrees to it, and you're going to land in that exact same spot on the circle. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to take that negative 150 and add 360. You can add and subtract 360 all day long with these problems, because you're always landing back on the same spot. So we get 210. That means 210 degrees is equivalent to negative 150 degrees. Okay, that's 150 degrees going this way. So this is the angle I want to look at for negative 150. I'm asked about the sine, which is the y value. So that would be negative 1/2. The other trick that you may have learned last year is negative angles and positive angles are always vertical reflections of one another. So if you're looking for negative 150, you can find positive 150 and then just draw a line straight down, okay? And that'll take you to negative 150. If you were looking for negative 240, draw a vertical line straight up, and there's negative 240. So negative angles always go straight up and down from one another. Okay, how about cosine of 495? I don't know if we've talked about this yet in this lesson. 495 is obviously bigger than this circle, right? So 495 means we went around 360 degrees and then kept going until we got to 495. The real question is, how much further beyond 360 did we need to go? Well, remember back here where we added 360 to a negative angle, or we did it here also, we can also subtract 360, right? Because we want to know how much further, how far beyond 360 did we need to go? So I'm going to take 495 and subtract 360, and I'm going to get 135. So 495 degrees is really right here. 495 would really be going all the way around and then landing back here. I guess I shouldn't actually say that these two angles are equal to each other. They're not, because 495 involves like one full rotation first, but it's going to land in this same spot. Okay, so that's bad notation on my part. But so cosine of 495 would be negative square root of 2 over 2. Okay, cosine of 90 Well, 90 degrees is right here. These coordinates work the same way. You've got cosine and you've got sine. So cosine of 90 would be 0. That's another one that's easy to check on your calculator. Cosine of 90 is 0. Okay, that one comes out nice and exact. By the way, the sine of 90 would be 1. Sine of negative 870. Oh, these are the ones that are really tough because this is not only negative, meaning it's going backwards around the circle, but it's going backwards more than once. So what I would do with these is I would take that negative 870 and I would start adding 360 to it as many times as it takes to get something that lands on this circle. Okay, and I'll know that it'll be in that exact same spot. So I'm going to add 360. That wasn't enough. It's still negative. So I'm going to hit plus 360. Still negative. I might be able to work with this. All right, I might be able to work with negative 150. In fact, I think I had negative 150 up here. But I'm going to add 360 one more time, and I end up with 210 degrees. Okay, so we had already talked about negative 150, kind of a fluke that I chose that same one. And then the sine value would be negative 1/2, just like it was up here. So those are the types of questions you're going to have to be able to answer for your homework. You're going to have to be able to find angles on the circle. You're going to have to understand what these coordinates should be. And you have to know that the x value is the cosine and the y value is the sine. Okay, that's it for the unit circle for today. Good luck.